What's going on, you rogues, rebels, and renegades? Welcome to episode 73 of the Rogue Country podcast. I am Mike West. I know I've been gone a while, but I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much for listening. We've got a doozy of an episode for you. Yeah, it's been January when we last released an episode, but, you know, I have a baby. He's doing amazing. He doesn't really sleep that well, so it's hard to kind of interview anyone who's in a different time zone when your baby doesn't sleep. So we are back to it, luckily. The person I have on today, Lewis from Subterranean Street Society, is only an hour ahead, so it wasn't too big a time difference. We managed to chat to him ahead of Subterranean Street Society's upcoming UK tour. I am opening the show in Manchester. It's going to be fantastic. I'm not going to bore you. We've been gone a while, so without further ado, this is episode 73 of the Rogue Country podcast with Mike West and Subterranean Street Society. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Obviously, the UK tour starts next week. Is this your first UK tour?
No, this is our second UK tour. We had a nice little run in 2019 in November, and then you know the story from there on what happened.
Yeah.
So we haven't been there since.
Yeah. How did you find the 2019 tour?
Yeah, it was quite nice. Yeah, we booked it ourselves, DIY. Managed to get a few nice little gigs and some sofa sound shows, and yeah, it was great. Yeah, it's I'm Danish, but I write in English, like so many people don't write in their what you call it, their mother tongue. But there is something, when you sing these lyrics to an English crowd, there's something else hits. Especially also given that I'm a lyricist, I really care for my lyrics, and I find them very important. So I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
With kind of obviously being fluent in Danish, English, singing in English, is there ever a part of you, or do you write songs in your original language and then kind of translate them, or do you kind of write with an English lyric kind of perspective, or?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I grew up with all these influences of America and England, right? So when I started writing songs, I started writing them in English, even though I was like only maybe 17 or 18 or something. So I don't write them in Danish and then they translate. No. No, I don't do that. I'm more starting to come to an age where I'm starting to think like, oh yeah, I also maybe have to write something in Danish. Like I'm getting older and I'm thinking about my roots and all that stuff. So.
I think that's a great thing, because obviously bands like Rammstein, they sing in German, and people like massive all over the world. I've just found a guy who's Nepalese American. He sings in Nepalese, called Arthur Gunn, and I have no idea what he's saying, but it's just really moving, and you eventually Google it and go, oh my god. But I don't know if it's more open now with people, and it's like when you sing in the original language, people are more kind of open to it, because even if they don't understand the lyrics, they can understand the melody, they understand the emotion behind it. When you have a singer like yourself who can convey that kind of message, obviously you sing with such passion, it's important that, you could sing in any language and people will still feel what you're saying.
No, I think you're spot on. I think there's probably an extra layer to it when you go, especially if you went away from your native language, and then at some point you come back to it after you've developed all these other skills, like I don't know, emotional skills. You lived a life or something.
Yeah.
So
but I always think it's an amazing thing. Like, I've done a few European tours, and whenever I get to the Netherlands, people are always kind of like, I apologize for my English. I was like, well, your English is way better than my Danish or Dutch or whatever. I don't know any of those languages, so there's no need to fucking apologize to me.
No, but it's a very interesting thing, huh? That we write songs in English, that it's such a norm, and of course it makes sense from a pop cultural kind of perspective, but not from any other kind of perspectives. Actually, if you break it down, you sometimes you go like, yeah, why do I write in English? Well, it is maybe, of course, to reach more people or something. I don't know. It's an interesting
because it's even with kind of, you see movies. And, you'll see a French film and it'll take off and it'll do amazing. And then you kind of say to yourself, well, how long until the American remake hits? And it's, it's not long for a few years until they eventually, because people just don't want to read subtitles. But it's weird, the kind of the
No.
film medium, they'll just remake it completely. But with the music, it's almost kind of expected you either sing in English or you aren't gonna, like, you're limited to your own country. Really, it's a weird, really weird kind of thing with music, how that's like cultural influences gone
Yeah.
through the kind of Western world and even into other languages and other music.
Yeah, but I guess it's also just the fact that you can't really kind of you can't really change the you can't really you have a piece of music, but you can't really translate it. I mean, you could go to the web, like you said, with this
Yeah,
guy you found, and you can find out, oh wait, what's he actually saying? But you can't really change the, you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
not a visual medium in that sense, and I guess that's maybe why it's limited in
yeah.
that way, and why people choose to write in English in order
Mm.
for more people to understand. Because when you make a French movie, yeah, well, there is some kind of, people watch French movies with subtitles. There's this thing called subtitles. You can't
Yeah.
really do that.
No.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you've just released Bleep, which is a brilliant album. I was just reading on kind of your like about page and stuff. So that was recorded live on an 8-track tape recorder.
yeah, I mean, primarily that was the process was that, yeah, the songs were written like that, and then it was put down on an 8-track recorder because we had a friend who has one of those, and then we got our own at some point as well. But yeah, it's primarily done like that. The ground tracks is basically put down like that. There's some overdubs here and there, but we try to keep it as much live as possible. That was the idea with this record. Really, just get the band sound down instead of you know.
And did that kind of thinking to go live and do the tape recorder, did that come kind of before or after? Because obviously the kind of the theme of this album is society's a cult. You have smartphone pinky fingers, and there's like not an aversion to technology, but a critique of technology. Did that come before or after you decided to record it this way?
Uh, I think it came afterwards. It was simply just like usually I would write songs and then come to the band, and then we would work them out. This way we, for the first time, did a lot of stuff where there was no song, so we just started doing jam sessions and writing some stuff together, and we were like, hey, let's try to record them in half a year. And I was like, all right, I better start writing some lyrics, and given the fact that we wanted to write up-tempo music, that was the only thing we really had. We wanted to write something with the band that was a bit more up-tempo. Yeah, it's just had that anger in it, so it was pretty like, we just came out of a pandemic. It was pretty fucking easy to write some social criticism for me anyway. Like I felt that hit me pretty hard, So yeah, it came like that, I would say.
Mm. And you say obviously coming out of the pandemic, you've got, it's been pretty easy if you've had your eyes open to kind of see what's going wrong with society and from a perspective where everything's kind of just been so far removed from everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, that kind of up-tempo song, sometimes it's funny to kind of have an up-tempo song and you sneak those lyrics in. Was it an interesting kind of battle to marry those two things together?
Yeah, very interesting. We also talked about like, hey, let's try to see for the fun of it to make some hooks. Is it possible for us to make something? And I was like, oh, I don't like that idea, like making hooks like up front. I mean, come on, we're an alternative band. What do we? I was like, all right, let's try to do it, And then we had this one song called "Focus on the Melody," and I was just singing these kind of gibberish lyrics, like as you do sometimes when you write a song. And I was singing "Focus on the Melody" in the rehearsal room, and I came back. I was like, "Focus on the melody, focus on the melody." It sounds so weird. Like, how am I gonna make a song about? Like, what am I gonna do with this? And it's like such a poppy punk song. I don't want to be like the Foo Fighters or something. I don't know what to do, But then in that song, I found a way to kind of embrace the hook by kind of writing a lyric about maybe that AI, like ChatGPT, wrote this song. That's why it's so mechanical, because ChatGPT wrote this hook. Like I found a way to kind of lyrically work with that kind of social criticism by almost like having sort of a meta approach to the song.
Yeah. No, that's so cool, especially like, it's the society of the spectacle. It's like focus on the melody. You don't have to focus on what's actually being said or what's being. No, that's such a really cool thing.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, that's the one that pops up first in my head of one way that I try to kind of yeah, embrace the kind of the not the simplicity of the songs because I don't think they're necessarily simple, but they're a little bit more straight to the point,
Mm,
like some of the other albums we have that get really like alternative at
yeah.
times.
No, and I remember like kind of looking at the track list and as it was playing, and then the third track is a God Couldn't Save the Queen.
Yeah,
And as a British person,
yeah,
well done.
yeah.
With
No,
with that song, obviously, when did she die? I can't remember when she died. Obviously,
well,
how
September.
long like after like her death did you write that song, or was it something you kind of because if you talk about society, the monarchy and that type of hierarchy is immediately kind of an open target. Was that kind of in your head prior to this, or was it after that passing and being in the news and being in everyone's face, this kind of
Uh,
formed?
no, no. I was actually it's interesting. I was kind of. I mean, the song was actually the beginning of the song was like about 50 Cent, and like I had like this rhyme about 50 Cent got rich, but we all die trying or something. I had
Mm,
some kind of thing going on like that, and I had all these kind of references to hip hop and stuff. And then I got this idea of putting the Danish Queen because I'm Danish and so I'm also raised in a monarchy. We
mm,
have Queen Daisy Margaret.
mm,
And I had these ideas. I was like, oh, I want to. So I started writing about her as well. So I started
mm,
comparing her with 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 the richness of 50 Cent or something. I was working. I
mm.
was all kinds of. I was just going in all kinds of directions, and I was trying to work it out, and it wasn't really working. And then suddenly Elizabeth died, and I was like, oh, there it is. First verse is about the Danish queen, and the second verse is about and I can kind of put them up against each other in some kind of way, and I don't know. So that's how the song happened. The fact that she died kind of finished the song for me.
Oh, well, at least she finally did something useful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always have a critical, like you said, like it's kind of an obvious place to go. I always been critical because it's hierarchy,
Mm,
whether you like it or not, whether you believe that it's good for a nation to have something like that, like we can discuss that, but
yeah,
it is a hierarchy. They have money. We look up to them. They are in power,
yeah.
and so I just from that standpoint, I always found it odd, and I also just find it an odd fairy tale in these times when you talk about people being so poor still, like it's just like it's like first shelf stuff. Just like
Yeah.
start with that. It's just like let's see if you take all that money and distribute it and do something. Let's maybe it solves it, maybe it doesn't, but at least
Yeah. It's worth a try.
I don't know. I mean, but and then of course I loved it was a pond, of course, on Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten, of course, like the whole idea of God Save the Queen. I
Yeah.
couldn't help myself to kind of you know
Yeah. No, definitely. It's an interesting thing, I think, especially like as a British person, obviously I'm aware of my monarchy. I don't really know the other monarchies in other countries that people come up through with your perspective of growing up in monarchy. I feel like it's almost the same where it's, a huge, of like wealth and power and just built on blood. And is that kind of the feeling throughout the country? Because I know we have a lot of staunch like royalists and people who think it's good for the economy, good for Britain, etc., etc. Is it kind of divided the same way where you are?
yeah, it's divided the same way. I mean, but it's completely out of proportion in England. I would say like
Mm,
the amount of wealth and private property that these dukes and the state owns
yeah,
and it's just I mean you don't have to search very far. It's ridiculous, right? It's
yeah.
just and so it's that, but it's toned down a lot more.
Mm,
But you have, of course, those things. But Denmark is different in that way. They are trying to keep them in check and not give them too much money and try to like there is this, but it's royal. It's
yeah.
it's built on the same stuff, man.
Mm,
And like you say, the brand and the keeping a nation together and what it is to be Danish and all that national
mm.
stuff that at least should be questioned.
Yeah. No, totally. I think that's an important thing is you should at least be able to ask the question because I know when kind of Elizabeth died, lots of people you couldn't even say you were anti-monarchy like
Yeah,
that week because it was just like people jumping down your throat saying how dare like and it's like but you should still be allowed to ask those questions if we're in such a free society, quote
yeah.
unquote. We should still be allowed to ask those questions and ask if they should be in power or think even if that power is going to end at some point if we're looking at the last royals which would be an interesting point of history.
Oh yeah, it's all very interesting. Absolutely. I mean, I mean, I have this one line in that song where it says, Lilibet died while the working class cried. You know, like this idea of, indeed, like you say, like you actually have a nation of working class people. I mean, I'm not saying that's only working class, but it's a big chunk, and they're usually the people that holds that hope the dearest.
Yeah.
You know, like she died, our hope, but it's such a, when you look at that anyway. When I looked at that and I saw the whole funeral and all this stuff, I was like, Jesus Christ, you know, like it's like such a wild thing. You know, she died so rich, like she
Yeah.
had so much money. Like it's so I find that, and I also, again, like Johnny Rotten did back in the days, I also just sympathize with the people who gets born into this. That's
Yeah.
also what the song is trying to again raise this question. Isn't it just like, shouldn't we just free them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's also what it's about. Like, why, you know? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
But
many
no, I
thoughts.
think that's an interesting thing. I think kind of again taken from your episodes of like the bands asking themselves and their fans questions. And I think that's a really important thing. And I think what your album does really well is ask those questions. It doesn't have to answer those questions. I think a lot of people expect art to ask the question and answer it. And I don't think that's fair on the artist and the kind of what they've created to have that pressure on them, where it's like you should be able to present an open-ended question. You should be able to present a question that then creates a dialogue. You shouldn't have to say, and I believe this, and that's the end of the song and the story and the questions.
No, that's my hope. I mean, I never really wrote something that, let's say, politically charged as this record is, and I was really trying to kind of find a way to kind of talk about attack the polarization by not polarizing too much, while still having, of course, an edge and a punk and an opinion, and to say like, hey, I don't. Which is also why I say society is a cult, and you could put it as a question mark. I hope people take that as a question mark more than they take it as a, you know, a kind of a statement that, but it's a question mark. But yeah, so I really wanted to sort of talk about the division in society and the technology or the royals or whatever creates division. I think that's kind of what it tries to kind of go, hey, maybe. So therefore, I couldn't be too opinionated because that would just ruin the point.
Yeah. I think that is hard, and it must have been hard for you as an artist to kind of say, well, this is my opinion, but, you know, I don't want to kind of force it down people's throats. I don't want to create it where it can be that polarizing where you go, you know, this is what I believe, and this is the kind of the only way, because I'll just make people kind of stop listening. Because the worst thing I found, even in, you know, any level of debate with kind of anyone like you work with, any family, the second you kind of pull up an ultimatum of this is what I think and that's that, it just shuts down any questions, any open debate, any type of conversation. I think it is a really kind of a fine line to tread.
It's a very fine line, and I think what we in society forget a lot is we go like, we're trying to defend this kind of, we say like, we have this thing and we need to keep these things as they are. And by saying that this is the reason why we can't debate, we're kind of not understanding why we even came to this in the first place. I mean, all the freedoms and stuff we had came from this idea that someone at some point going, all right, I'm going to stop killing you and listening to your point of view. And maybe we can try to find a way for you to give you some rights, still making me rich, but at least I'm not going to kill you. You know, like we forget how we came here. And that's, of course, always how it is, which is why the right to demonstrate and a big level of freedom of speech is extremely important, you know, that we have to keep talking about that, you know, otherwise, in my opinion,
Yeah.
here it is on record, we're pretty doomed. Like if you don't save that kind of thing in societies, there is no, I don't think we stand a chance. Like it will be in whatever way the end of us, like, because it's what's holding societies together is this kind of dynamic change that we can have.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think it's weird, especially it kind of happened. It started happening, at least in Britain, it started happening before COVID. We had a politician who was an utter bellend say that we were done with facts and scientists, and that kind of shut down that level of debate, and it just kind of got worse over the pandemic. But I had a guy on the podcast from America, and as a country singer, you know, I find you can't sing about small towns and addiction and, you know, that type of thing without it being political. Obviously, you don't have to be overtly political, but those are political things that have made those things happen. And we just had a conversation. We didn't kind of talk like Democrats, Republicans, or anything like that. We just talked about the situation that creates those towns. And a lot of the comments were like, wow, didn't expect this to get so political. And I think people do have like an aversion or a fear sometimes to even asking those questions or listening to a conversation that is posing those questions. It's a really weird time at the moment.
Yeah, and it's of course the fear machine has been going on for so long. I mean, I don't know when it started, but like it's really inherent in us. Like it's like we're humans. Like we are being, if we don't watch out, programmed. We can still decide to. We still have some rights that can protect us from things, but like we have to decide to, I would say deprogram ourselves from some of those institutions or whatever we call them.
Yeah, I think especially like obviously in the album you kind of talk about smartphones as well, and smartphones have kind of like the best and worst of humanity all in one thing, and it's a weird thing to kind of like I know I have issues and addiction to my phone, like I always kind of worry where it is and things, and especially I have a baby now and it's like I have to kind of make a conscious choice to be like throw it away so I can actually be present with him and pay attention to him, because it has just been such a huge part of everyday life that you kind of just have that bit in your brain to be like, well, where is it? What is it? Who's notifying me? Who's texting me? Where's like what's happening? And it's a weird kind of position to be in, that if you think about like as a kid in the 90s, you didn't even know what a phone was. It was a landline and you never had to worry about it. And that part of your brain was just not active or engaged in that way. It's a really weird time.
Oh, it's the biggest thing that's happened to us, and it's like, especially the last, like with the smartphone era, huh? What was it, 2008 or what? I don't know how precisely, but there was this break when the iPhone something came out, and it's like, well, okay, now everyone can be, and then everyone started affording them,
Yeah.
It's a very weird thing for our attention span, it's and I like you say, it's, if it was just a certain group of people that got so very addicted to this thing, you could go like, all right, let's focus on that group of people. How can we help them? The problem is the people that needs to try to help them is as addicted as anyone. So you have the parents who's supposed to try to tell their kids to get away from it, but they're so addicted that they can't do that because there would be double morals.
Yeah.
They'll go, well, what about you? It's like, oh shit, so they don't tell them to go off their phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's no. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, because the technology only sort of advances.
Yeah, no.
And again, we have to make a choice maybe to grab this attention back, put it away. I just put mine a little bit further away, for example.
Yeah, that's the I always kind of flip mine over while I'm talking and stuff, because it is one of those things where you see the blinking light and your attention just starts dividing. It's a really weird thing.
Man, they have these ways that you can put your people do this stuff, right? They dumb down their phone or something. They make it gray. They take all the colors off and stuff. Apparently it helps a lot, so that you don't get,
Yeah.
So like interested in all the colors and stuff. We're just like animals, man. Like and whoever created this stuff, they're just fucking with us, man. They're just sitting somewhere going like, yes, it's working.
Yeah, they 100% knew what they were doing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. But going on kind of from that, the first track, I thought it was really cool. You had the I'm Mad as Hell speech from Network.
Yes, yeah. Did you know that film before?
I've seen kind of, I haven't seen the film, but I've seen kind of, do you know like when it's like the 10 greatest speeches in film or something? Because I loved The Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin's film, where he has that speech at the end. That's, I think, just amazing. I remember I kind of fell down a rabbit hole of those type of things and kind of 12 Angry Men and all those classic films, because I think Network's from mid-70s, I think 1976 or something.
Yeah, that film's from 1976 or something. Yeah. I saw it first 10, 15 years ago. I go to this underground cinema in Amsterdam where I live, and this guy was putting on that Network film, and I was like, fuck, I can't go see it. So I saw it at home instead. And that was in that period when we were writing these things, and I saw that speech again. And I was like, whoa, Jesus, that's something, I got to do something with that. It's just so powerful.
Yeah.
I can do.
Yeah. And with kind of using that speech, did you have to go through rights, or was it just kind of drop it in and see what happens?
Yeah, definitely drop it and see what happens. Yeah. Your podcast is not like the most famous, and you don't have a Joe Rogan podcast or
Oh
something, no?
no,
Right.
it's yeah.
We're grand, you know.
Yeah, I might drop it in this and we'll see what happens. And if I get fucked, then, start getting a lawyer.
It's all right. We'll write a few songs, you know. But yeah, no, it's very difficult with these things, you know. Like, so you make your decisions. You do find a way to kind of write on the album cover that if anyone feels that we've taken something, they can contact us and make sure that, you know, that's the best you can do, because some of these things. But you do that per track, you know. Sometimes you do ask for permission. Like, it depends.
Yeah.
Also, just depends on how good it comes out. At some
Yeah.
point, you're like, well, it doesn't matter if they say no because this is too good, so I'm putting it up. You know, it's just like the art to win or something.
Yeah, no, it's such an amazing kind of like with that song and like the build up to that's just such a powerful way. Did you kind of have that in your head when you wrote Society as a Cult, or was it once you came to recording you realized that just it fit?
No, it's just it became an opening track. We were like, oh, it's like maybe this is going to be like an opening track. We thought it was going to be an instrumental first or something, you know. And then I was like, wow, this is, you know. And then I was like, oh, I got all these social criticism. How can I frame? How is there any way I can kind of set it up, you know? And I knew the focus on the melody was probably going to be the second song. And I was like, all right, that's interesting, you know. Those two songs, you know, Get Up, Get Angry, kind of like, so it's like, you know how it is. You write music yourself, right? And it's like, it's hard to say how it comes together, but it's a speech that moved me, and usually that works. It's like, okay.
And you found it like 15 years ago initially, so it's stuck with you that long.
Yeah, it stuck with me that long, and then I again, like, it was because of the underground cinema. I came up again. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch that because I'm writing this album about all these social criticism. Maybe it's a good film to see. And yeah, you know, it's interesting. Like, the speech really hits a lot of interesting things. Like, it's like, of course, there's a few different kind of items, but it's the same message, right?
Yeah,
like, it's completely spot on, and it's 50 years later.
And that's the thing. I think it's crazy. Like, there's a song by a guy called Henson Cargill, and it's called Going Backwards. And the first verse is like astronauts, cosmonauts, spaceships in the sky, $1 billion price tag just to get this thing to fly, while a man looks down and sees his hungry children as they cry. And you're like, that's just what Bezos and Musk have been doing. And it's like, these problems have existed for like at least 50 years. It's crazy that, you know, this speech from Network, that song by Henson Cargill, it's like they hit on the same points that in 2024 we're still experiencing. It's nuts how like not much has actually changed in terms of those things.
No, not much. Like yeah, I mean, I could go on all kinds of rants, man. You know, like, I think people should listen to the record. There's enough rants there, but yeah, I think all kinds of things of society. But it does come down to. I went to this reading on this Indonesia. You know, and the Netherlands was colonizers of Indonesia and many places in the world. Like, and they have these workshops or talks these days in Amsterdam. And there was this talk about back in the World War II and how Indonesia got their independence and all that stuff. But there was this woman that was an Indonesian woman that was the big activist back then, and she stood up one time, you know, after the war ended, and said some truth about some things, and she got famous. But what she was saying was, because she was Indonesian, but she was in Amsterdam at that point, and Indonesia was still under Dutch rule back then. So she was in some way fighting for being free from the Germans, but also, of course, freeing Indonesia. But she said that there was this story, and she said that thing that stuck with me today was this: the problem is that we focus on only freeing one part. We focus on only saying these people need to be free. No, these people deserve to be free. But we have to be against fascism at all times, not at all costs necessarily, but we have to stand up against fascism. Not like, you know, so we have to get rid of the double morals, I think, as a human species, which is very difficult when we have such a world that's so big, and we turn on the internet and I can have opinions about something in New Zealand in a second, you know. it's a very weird thing, but I think we really have to start where we are and 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 go against fascism if it occurs, or racism, or any of these things.
Mm.
And I think that's where that's the problem we have as a human species, is that we very quickly only think about our own
Yeah.
little gardens, or or we divide, and that's why nationalism is also problematic, right? Because
Yeah.
we save ourselves, but it's a very difficult problem, especially when we're such a live in globalization as we do.
Yeah.
It's very, I don't have the answers, man. It's
No.
very
Yeah. And it's hard as well because it's kind of people kind of shout out hypocrisy. Obviously, being British, I'm critical of Britain's role in India and Africa and Winston Churchill and all those things. But obviously, as kind of a white British person, I've benefited from those things. So a lot of people kind of see that thing as like, well, why are you complaining about it, basically? And it's like, well, I shouldn't have to have been kind of impacted in it in that way to see that it's wrong. I should still be able to say that, what Britain did to India was absolutely disgusting. The concentration camps they set up in Africa was absolutely horrendous. But people just kind of see these things as, well, we're British, so we have to support that kind of no matter what and deal with those problems because those people over there are the real savages for doing what we actually did 50 years before they did, but hush hush. And it's one of those crazy hypocritical things that, again, there's no real answer. It's just a clusterfuck of opinions and trying to find some way to walk through it and educate people and hopefully ask those questions that can benefit us like and progress us down the line. But yeah, it's a weird time to kind of ask those
it's a
things.
weird time, and I just think it can only stop if these countries man up to their responsibilities of where they still have their dirty hands in.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, you can say we're not going to take people into certain countries if you have taken all of your interest out of any country around the
Yeah.
world. Then at that point, I might even disagree with it, but you have the right to say, hey, we're not disturbing anyone, so don't disturb us. Like
Yeah.
that, even with their past or whatever. But the problem is it's a hypocrisy. It's
Yeah.
like call them immigrants and all that stuff. Is like, I mean, there's still the reasons, some of these countries, why these people are fleeing because of the wars that are, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I find that's such a problem in the discussion that's
Mhm.
not. Well, maybe it is highlighted in some debates, but anyway, I find
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. And with kind of obviously the lyrics was all kind of critiquing this. Did Network and any other films or any other books kind of influence this album and your songwriting, or did it kind of influence kind of your albums before this?
Oh, yeah, of course it did. Just wondering if there's anything very specific. I mean, I've always been interested in the classics. I come from this sort of beatnik, very much into, also hence the name Subterranean. Very much into the beatnik stuff. So a lot of that stuff has, of course, influenced that kind of like, hey, freedom. Like. But the social criticism, and I guess like the classics, the Orwell, and I also read what is that one? Huxley, Brave New World, not long ago as well, and like some of those dystopian sci-fi stuff. I must
Yeah.
admit that kind of has definitely inspired this kind of idea of writing about these things in maybe a more dystopian way while using the current moment.
Yeah. And obviously you kind of talked about you wanted this album to be up tempo. You talked about hooks kind of before it. With the kind of the previous albums, was there a process when you started writing those where it was like, well, we're just kind of finding our sound, we're finding ourselves, or did you have the same type of intent going into each album where you were like, well, we're gonna aim for this?
How many records did I've made? I've made at least a few records where I made a record called 12 Steps, which was very much a conceptual record. So that was just like I just started writing the songs as the steps in the 12-step program. That was really conceptual. In general, I think very conceptually when it comes to making albums. So actually, very often I have quite some ideas about how it has to be put together, and which song comes when, and all this stuff. This was the first time I was kind of like having to try to let go of that, and then put it together later. Basically, like as I had written 4 or 5 songs criticizing things, I was like, all right, maybe I can write a 6 or a 7. What do what did we miss? So the approach is very different on this one. Usually I go about it writing the songs on myself and then
Mm.
and actually kind of putting it together with my band, of course. But yeah, this was a real band record, man.
Mm. And was that kind of an interesting thing with the other guys to kind of collaborate and see who was bringing what to the tables? And obviously, you said you kind of dealt with the lyrics mostly yourself, but did they have kind of input on those type of things or bring up certain ideas or suggestions?
Yeah, and the first song that we wrote for the album was called "The Jab, the Judge, the Jury," which was like 2021 or something, and it was got me and the bass player. We had some quarrels and some differences opinion about some of these things and
Mm.
what was right or wrong or what we should do as a society or something. And actually being confronted with the difficulties for us to also even communicate in a
Mm.
sometimes
Yeah.
the right matter was also what kind of spurred some of those lyrics. And also, yeah, I co-wrote some lyrics as well in the end, like in the studio.
Mm.
Some of the stuff was like, hey, we're recording in 3 days. Better finish that lyric. And some lyrics I wrote in 1 or 2 days as well, like, and just went to the studio. So it was very immediate process, which is very interesting because I usually sit quite long with my lyrics. I'm
Yeah.
a bit more.
And
Oh,
has that impacted how you kind of view the album in hindsight? Have you gone, oh, I should have done X instead of Y, or have you looked at it and gone, no, I've like seeing how you created it kind of spontaneously has kind of given the strength to those things and maybe trusted yourself as a songwriter a bit more to not kind of agonize because everyone agonizes over lyrics. If it's unfinished, it's you can sit there for 3 or 4 years and worry about where the comma is. But did it give you kind of the kind of strength as a songwriter to realize, no, I fucking nailed this.
yeah, I think what it gave me was that I all the practice I had for 15 or 20 years has paid off in the sense that I am now able to actually to write something quick and it stands a chance to be somewhat decent at least, like and I think that's something I had to prove to myself now that my immediate thoughts and my craft has come to a point as a songwriter where I don't have to necessarily linger over it
Mm,
for a long, long time. I might be able to stand a chance of spitting something out fast and that actually standing as even stronger at times.
mm,
Yeah, to be honest, that has given me that. But on the counter, as a piece of work, I think it definitely. I'm very happy with it. But there's a few songs that stick out of the theme of the record. And as a conceptual thinker, I would have liked to. I would have liked for the whole record to kind of to touch base on the societal things.
mm.
But I think it works as the music. It works very well together in a sense. So. That's great. Move on to the next. I've never been so fast from writing something to recording it to releasing it as now, and that's
Mm.
fantastic. It feels like the old days of DIY a little bit, where you didn't have to release so many singles on streaming
Yeah.
platforms. It's like um, so very happy with the process.
I can't not talk about this because the first time I heard your music was on Ragnarok with Only Your Sins Know.
Okay.
What was the kind of, how did that come about? Because I know sync deals and stuff can be a huge kind of like moment for a band. Obviously, I found your music through it. Did that come about? Did you submit to something or did they approach you? How did that come about?
Oh, it's a quirky little story. I like to say it came about because we used to. I mean, we're still playing a lot, but we're a live band, so we used to tour a lot as well back like 4 or 5 years ago, and we used to tour Denmark a lot, where I'm from, and so we would come back frequently, a couple of times a year or something. And we were doing a tour in I don't know October or something, and we were playing a place called Hillerød, which we've played a few times, and so we were promoting it, kind of, hey, we're coming to blah 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 on the internet with a video. And this was the video of Only Since Now, or like we had like this live video. And then I got a message from a guy, and he was like, "Hey man, I know it's a little bit out of the blue, but like I just heard this song. I live in Hillerød, and I see you're coming, and I know I can't say what it's for, but could you send me the song? Because I'm cutting this thing, and it's like a big thing, but I can't say what it is. But you don't know me, but would you mind sending the song? I think this is perfect. I'm cutting the scene right now, and I think this song will be perfect for it." And I saw it, and I was like, okay, this seems legit. It doesn't seem like a.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever. So I sent it to him, And a few days later, he sent it back. He said, like, I got it together, and I'm sending it out, and I think it's gonna be great, and you'll hear from me, you know. So when we went to Hillerød to play the gig, he showed me like, hey man, like they like it, and it's you know. So that's how it came about, simply by playing live, because otherwise this guy would have never seen it, you know, like and by accident he was the guy who cuts
Yeah.
Ragnarok, you
No
know,
way.
and he liked the music, so it's just like one of those off chance situations,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
That's such like a weird kind of, not necessarily a coincidence, but such a weird kind of fate
Yeah.
thing that just happens. That's so cool.
Yeah. Just for me it's like indeed like just putting it out there, you know, like going for it. Playing live can also, you don't always have to have the what do they call it, the gatekeepers.
No.
You gatekeepers are good if you want to go somewhere, but you don't always need them, you know. And so that's, I kind of like that story. And of course, it was not it was the classic story. Once the other guy with the money stuff came on the line, it started getting nasty, and you know, it was a bad experience, you know, because you know, it's like there's a guy who just tries to get as much money out of
Yeah.
the situation. That's his job, right? So, and you're just a guy with no label, you know, and no experience. So, but I was very happy we managed to get it in there. It was it's helped us a lot, and I still think it's a great song as well, which is nice because sometimes you also hear people saying yes to getting a song in an Apple commercial, and they don't really like the song, you know.
Yeah.
But it pays, so then they get known for something that they don't really like anymore, or something, which I think can be also problematic.
Yeah, well, you see those like bands from like the 80s or the 70s, whatever, like the one hit wonder bands. And like we have them over here and it's like the 80s, like what's his name? Like Chesney Hawkes, like the I Am the One and Only guy. And he's playing like like family parks and things and stuff. And it's like, you know, you're still making music, but you know,
Yeah,
it's a weird kind of double-edged sword sometimes if you have like a one hit wonder that you weren't even that keen on, like you kind of wrote it for label pressure or whatever you did, and
yeah.
you've kind of created this gilded cage for yourself because then nothing else you ever write sounds like that, and everyone who likes that song is then disappointed by everything you do.
Which they are anyway. If you make it, you know, it's always there's always going to be that thing, right? There's always going to be, you know, that's how it is to be an artist. Which is why you should just do whatever the fuck you really feel like. That's the way to win, you know.
Mm.
Not in the business maybe, but for yourself as an
Yeah.
artist, you have to keep changing or whatever it is you want to do, or keep writing the same albums if that's what you want to do. But you have to do it because you like that kind of music. So, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's like the interesting thing because like obviously that was the first song I heard from you guys, and it's slightly more rootsy. It's not necessarily country, but it's got that kind of rootsy vibe to it, that like just that feel. It's on the resonator guitar.
Yeah.
And then from that to Bleep it was a change, but it didn't feel like, you know, a complete 180. It felt like a natural progression and growth of songwriters and artists who have that kind of roots music in their DNA, but they've also grown up around kind of like Nirvana, the 90s indie scene, the alternative scene, and it's just a culmination of things.
Yeah. No. I think there's still, you can still hear that it's the same band. We had a record in between, a COVID record. It's called Saudade, which is really like an ambient folk record. That if you heard that, you go like, oh, is that the same band? You know. So we wanted to get back to that sort of like alternative rock thing because it's deeply embedded in us. But yeah, I agree. You can definitely, you can't compare the songs, but they come from the same kind of anger.
Mm. No, I think that's a really interesting point because, you know, even kind of the one hit wonders and stuff, it's still the same person, right? I mean, if they have that anger or they have that kind of sorrow or whatever is in their art, you always see that through line.
Yeah. I hope so. I mean, yeah, I do a lot of other stuff as well. I also do these ballads. You know, there's always never a Subterranean Street Society record without some kind of melancholic ballad about something that broke my heart in one way or another, you know. And that's good. I like that, you know, because yeah, I don't know, like I don't like this one-dimensional stuff.
No. No, I
Yeah,
think that's important. And I think especially from like kind of just taking your albums and stuff, you write about a lot of things. It's one of those things like I can't stand if a band do kind of one album and it's 12 songs all about a relationship. It's like, has nothing else happened to you in the
Yeah.
time you've taken to write this.
No, I agree. Yeah, if they do that, they really have to do it really well,
Mm,
Again, like conceptually or something, Like what is it, that Carol and Lowell record, like Sufjan Stevens? It's fantastic. It's just about his mom and
mm,
dad or something, but it's just so beautiful that it's like, yeah,
yeah.
you do a double album. Give
Yeah.
me another one, kind of. It's always that, right?
Yeah.
Exception to the rule.
Yeah. But again, it's when you have just an artist or a writer of that caliber, that can just be the difference because they just see the world in a slightly different way that makes a cliche unique for once.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing that I'm really interested in, like, indeed, I mean, I don't think focus on the melody is a cliche, but for me, from my point of view, focus on the melody as a song etches on some kind of like classic punk rock. It sits in
Mm,
a style. It's if you didn't write any lyrics on it and just listen to the music, you'd be like, all right, that's like a garage rock band that does this.
mm,
And so for me, it was like, okay, how do I try to take the cliche and like do
yeah.
something original with it, and I think
Yeah.
that's interesting. It's great. You shouldn't steer away from cliches, maybe.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they're cliches for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously, I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll wind this
I've
down.
got
But
time. It's okay. Yeah.
you've got the UK tour coming up. Is there anything you do for tours to kind of prepare, or is there any kind of like checklist you have in your head when you go out on the road for a prolonged period of time where you're like, well, I need to, make sure I have this, make sure, I know kind of riders are a thing sometimes depending on band and stuff. Is there anything kind of in your head as you're preparing for this UK tour that you have to get done before you head off shortly?
Changes all the time, bringing my computer on this one, so there's not so much of this kind of like having to do all the emails before you leave.
Yeah.
Maybe more actually like kind of like try to also get some rest and make sure that you kind of like relax a bit before, so you don't like are stressed before you leave or something.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe actually the most important thing. Um, we've played a club tour in Netherlands. We played enough. We don't have to rehearse anymore. That's
Yeah.
nice. But of course, other than that, you would say rehearse. Make sure you
Yeah.
know your stuff, right? Uh, I mean, terrible to get into the UK with the Brexit. I mean, I have to tell you that, man. That was much more of a problem than we thought.
It's a fucking nightmare. It still
I mean, I
blows
hope we
me.
get in, basically,
Yeah.
I hope
Oh,
I'll see you in real life soon.
yeah. It blows my fucking mind that that even happened. And it's annoying. I've seen the music fans who voted for it, and I'm like, are you for fucking real? Do you like how much this is going to impact people? And yeah, I'm not going to get into a rant because
No,
yeah,
but I just wanted to say that it's really getting in there. It's going to really feel like, all right, we're here now.
yeah,
We're really going to give it everything we have because we got into the country.
yeah, yeah,
But so that it's been more difficult. I'm curious to talk to some more people also on the store about how it is and how they also the audience, how they experience if people are coming, to the
yeah,
show, or if artists manage to actually come over,
yeah,
I mean, more underground like us, because
yeah,
it's on so many levels so difficult,
yeah,
but so yeah, I hope there's a hungry crowd anyway. So if anything, let's hope that it
yeah.
means that when someone comes, that there's a hungry crowd for some.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting and a silver lining way to look at it is that, with how hard it is now for it to happen, I hope people do not take it for granted when it actually happens because, it's a lot of like cogs and parts that make these things happen, especially with all this stupid fucking legislation and ridiculous laws coming in to create this situation. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So yeah, we're ready for it. We're looking forward to it. Like we haven't been touring abroad since COVID. I think we came home from, what was the last thing? Russia. We were in Russia when the COVID like really like lockdown hit. We just got home in town kind of thing.
Mm,
And we haven't really been touring abroad, so it's going to be great for us too, being in a
yeah.
tour van, doing the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'll leave it there. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But yeah, I really cannot fucking wait. I saw you announce it. I saw Manchester and was like, I'm going to fucking be there. I sent an email to see if I could open it and they let me. So
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to see you two playing there, man. Good.
yeah,
And
man.
thanks so much for listening so thoroughly to the record. I really appreciate it. It's and for sharing your thoughts. It's very interesting. I don't get to do this every day either. To
Yeah.
kind of talk about my own artwork.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to talk to you in person, man. Have a good evening and I'll see you soon.
Yes, mate.
And you can catch Subterranean Street Society in Newcastle on the 9th of May, Manchester on the 10th of May, Sheffield on the 11th of May, London on the 14th of May, and Brighton on the 15th of May. I love these guys. Bleep, their new album is incredible. You do not want to miss them. Rogue Country has its own shows coming up. They are amazing. On the 9th of May, we have Jake Fardland and the Stage and Riverboys playing at Future Yard in Birkenhead. On June 21st, we have Corb Lund playing Future Yard Birkenhead as well. Guess what? At Future Yard Birkenhead as well, we also have Emily Nenny playing with Teddy and the Rough Riders on August 28th. And we have just announced the first Rogue Country tour of the year. No, it's not. The second Rogue Country tour of the year. We had Stale Drake over. That was phenomenal. The second one is Jeremy Pinnell in October with Chris Dover as special guest, our lovely, wonderful friend Chris. He is playing London on the 18th of October, Sheffield on the 20th, Birkenhead on the 22nd, Newcastle on the 24th, Bradford 26th, Forest Row on the 27th. We have dates to announce in between these shows, so keep your eyes on the Rogue Country pages. And until next time, keep doing what you love, keep supporting what you love, and peace.